She got a lot of pretty, pretty boys. She calls friends my life's in books, written pages.
10 songs, no titles, no lyrics that give the game away, only stories. A casino fire, a breakup captured on tape, a school choir that frightened a government, and a 6-minute single that radio was told would never work. Some sold millions, others returned through movies decades later. Write your answers from number 10 to number 1, but decide quickly because each final clue will bring you dangerously close. Number 10. A bright, circular guitar figure opens this 1976 recording. It feels calm, almost weightless. But beneath that gentle sound lies one of rock's darkest questions. Can love become powerful enough to survive our fear of death? The songwriter was not trying to celebrate despair. Buck Dharma was still a young man when he began imagining what might happen if his own life ended early. Would love disappear with the body, or could two people remain connected after time itself had lost its meaning? That idea gave the song its strange emotional balance. The music comforts you, while the subject quietly unsettles you. Radio listeners responded to that contradiction. The single remained on the American chart for 20 weeks and climbed to number 12, the highest position Blue Oyster Cult would ever reach in the United States. It also helped Agents of Fortune become the band's commercial breakthrough. Yet chart numbers explain only part of its reach. In John Carpenter's 1978 film Halloween, the song plays from a car radio, while two young women remain unaware that danger is following them. Years later, it opened the 1994 television adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand. In both cases, filmmakers understood the same psychological effect. The melody sounds safe, but something fatal seems to be waiting behind it. Then Saturday Night Live changed the song again. A 2000 sketch turned one small percussion part into the phrase "more cowbell," introducing the recording to millions of younger viewers. The joke became almost as famous as the music. Final clue. Imagine a dark-robed figure carrying a scythe while that famous cowbell waits in the background. Which song is it? Number 9. The next song was not born in a glamorous Los Angeles studio. It was assembled in a basement by an engineer who still spent his weekdays working at Polaroid. Tom Scholz treated recording like a private science experiment.
And dream of a girl I used to know.
He built layer after layer of guitar, bass, organ, and harmony, searching for a sound that would feel enormous without losing its precision. Much of the work was completed away from record company supervision. Then Brad Delp added a voice so clear and powerful that the basement recordings suddenly sounded as if they belonged inside an arena. But the emotional center is much smaller and more personal. The singer hears an old melody, and without warning, it carries him back to a woman named Mary Ann. She is no longer present, yet the music makes the memory feel immediate. Anyone who has been ambushed by a song from the past understands the sensation. For 4 minutes, memory does not feel like history. It feels like a room you have entered again. When the single reached radio in 1976, it climbed to number 5 in America. The self-titled Boston album moved even faster. It went gold within weeks, platinum within months, and eventually reached 17 million certified copies in the United States. Worldwide sales rose beyond 20 million, making it one of the most successful debut albums ever released. The scale of that success is almost absurd when compared with the place where the music began. A man who still doubted whether he had a future in rock had built one of the decade's biggest records beneath a house.
And the sun was gone, turned on some music.
If an old melody, a lost woman named Marianne, and a basement transformed into a stadium have opened the door in your memory, what song are you hearing? Number 8. This is the sound of a breakup written in front of the person who had to hear it. Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks had ended their long relationship, but they could not simply walk away from each other. Still, they still had to enter the same studio, face the same microphones, and turn private damage into public music. Buckingham did not soften his anger. He drove it into a sharp guitar part that seems to move forward even while the singer remains emotionally trapped in the argument.
Everything turned around.
The rhythm adds to that instability. Buckingham drew inspiration from the drum, feel of a Rolling Stones recording, then placed an acoustic guitar over it in a way that made the downbeat surprisingly difficult to find. One well-known radio DJ reportedly admitted that he could not locate the first beat. The song feels as if it is running and slightly losing its balance at the same time. Listeners knew that the voices on the record belonged to people whose relationships were collapsing. That knowledge changed the psychology of the album. The public was not hearing actors perform fictional heartbreak. They were hearing former lovers turn accusation, regret, and defiance into harmony while standing only a few feet apart. The single became Fleetwood Mac's first American top 10 hit. Rumors then spent 31 weeks at number 1 in the United States, won the Grammy for Album of the Year, and eventually sold more than 40 million copies worldwide. Private separation had helped create one of the largest commercial events in recording history. The song kept moving long after 1977. Its restless momentum later accompanied Forrest Gump during his cross-country run, allowing a new generation to connect that guitar rhythm with the feeling of leaving something behind. If you remember a breakup chorus where anger and freedom explode together, what is the song? Write down your first 3 answers in order: 10, 9, and 8. And do not look at the comments. The clues are about to become much more familiar. Number 7. Within a few guitar notes, the room fills with sunlight, open highway, and the heavy air of the American South. This 1974 recording is often reduced to a simple feud. Neil Young had written 2 songs confronting racism and the darkest parts of Southern history. Lynyrd Skynyrd answered him directly, but the exchange was never as hateful as legend made it sound. The band respected Young, and Gary Rossington later described the reference as a joke with an edge. Young eventually admitted that one of his own songs had been overly accusatory and had earned a response. That tension is exactly why the record still creates such a complicated reaction. For many listeners, it feels like home, summer, football, family, and a highway with the windows down. For others, it raises difficult questions about history, regional pride, and what symbols people choose to defend. The song is celebratory on the surface, yet argument lives inside it. Ed King's opening riff gave Lynyrd Skynyrd its first major pop breakthrough. The single reached number 8 in America, while the album's second helping climbed to number 12 and was eventually certified double platinum. The band was no longer simply a hard-working Southern act. It had created a piece of cultural shorthand. Hollywood understood that recognition. The original recording appeared during the Alabama sequence in Forrest Gump. Then, in 22, a Reese Witherspoon romantic comedy borrowed the song's exact title and earned more than $180 million worldwide. By then, the phrase no longer belonged only to a record. It could identify an entire mood before the first scene had even begun. Final clue. The name of a US state appears in the title, and the opening guitar sounds like sunlight hitting the road. Which song is it? Number 6. Before he became one of rock's wildest frontmen, Steven Tyler would lie beneath the family piano and listen to his father play classical music. He absorbed the long chords, the solemn atmosphere, and the way a melody could begin quietly before filling an entire room. Years later, those childhood memories became the foundation of a power ballad that guitarist Joe Perry initially doubted was rock and roll. On Aerosmith's 1973 debut album, it sounded almost too grand for a young band still trying to establish an identity.
The past is gone.
The first single release reached only number 59 nationally, although radio stations in Boston recognized its power much earlier. Then something unusual happened. The song refused to disappear. Local airplay continued. Fans kept requesting it. Columbia reissued the single in 1976, and the same recording that had once stalled outside the top 50 climbed to number 6. It was not a new song. America had simply caught up with it.
Take you away.
The final vocal climb became its emotional signature. Tyler begins with restraint, then pushes higher until the voice seems ready to tear through the tape. He later explained that this was close to his natural voice. On much of the first album, he had tried to sound different because he felt insecure. The climax works because it is not merely loud. It sounds like a young man finally revealing himself. Decades later, the recording continued finding new lives. Eminem built his 2002 track, Sing for the Moment, around its melody and Steven Tyler's voice, while Joe Perry recorded a new guitar solo. That bridge carried a 1970s ballad into hip-hop culture. In 2014, Tyler and Perry recorded a special version with a children's choir to honor those affected by the Boston Marathon bombing, with proceeds supporting related charities. The Recording Academy inducted the original into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2018.
Sing we now, sing for the year, sing for the love, sing for the tear.
If you can hear one final cry, urging a person to keep reaching for something greater while time runs past, what song comes to mind? Number 5, a solid drum beat, a bass line touched by disco. Then children enter the recording and turn one man's rebellion into the voice of an entire generation. The idea began as a short section inside Roger Waters' much larger story about a damaged rock star isolating himself from the world. Producer Bob Ezrin heard the possibility of a single. He expanded the arrangement, strengthened the danceable pulse, and proposed a school choir. Pink Floyd was not known for chasing pop radio, and the suggestion sounded almost too commercial. But the contrast was irresistible. About 24 students from Islington Green School in North London were recorded nearby. Their voices are young and orderly, but the message rejects rigid education, humiliation, and emotional control. That collision made the record psychologically unsettling. Adults could dismiss one angry musician. A room full of children sounded like evidence that something deeper had gone wrong. Released near the end of 1979, the single became Britain's Christmas #1 and remained at the top for 5 weeks. It also reached #1 in the United States and topped charts across much of the world. More than 4 million copies were sold internationally, an extraordinary result for a band that had largely avoided conventional singles. But the song's influence moved beyond sales. Black students in South Africa adopted it during protests against the unequal education imposed under apartheid. The government banned the record in 1980, proof that authorities no longer heard it as entertainment. They heard it as a tool of resistance. The 1982 film, based on The Wall, made the imagery even more disturbing. Faceless students march through a school like factory products and appear to be fed into a giant meat grinder before rebellion erupts. Once audiences saw those images, many could never hear the children's voices in quite the same way again. If a symbolic wall, a terrifying teacher, a disco pulse, and a school choir are enough to unlock your memory, what is your answer? We are halfway through. Are you 5 for 5, or is one title still hiding from you? Keep your score. The final 4 recordings have become almost impossible to separate from the history of rock itself. Number 4. The first clue is not a musical note. It is a fire.
Let's burn down the gambling house.
In December 1971, Deep Purple arrived in Montreux, Switzerland, planning to record an album with the Rolling Stones' mobile studio. During a Frank Zappa concert at the local casino, someone fired a flare into the ceiling. The building caught fire. From across Lake Geneva, the band watched black smoke spread over the water while the place intended for their recording sessions disappeared. Roger Glover carried that image into the story. Ritchie Blackmore created a riff so simple that generations of beginners would later attempt it within days of picking up a guitar. John Lord doubled the line on a distorted Hammond organ, giving it a weight no single guitar could create alone. Even the recording became part of the legend. Deep Purple tried working inside an empty theater, only for police to arrive after neighbors complained about the volume. The band eventually moved into the Grand Hotel and used hallways, cables, and mattresses to create a temporary studio. A song about chaos was literally recorded inside chaos. At first, it was not considered the obvious single from Machine Head. Only after audiences began responding to it in concert did the label release an edited version in 1973. It climbed to number 4 in America and became the band's defining recording. More importantly, the riff became a kind of universal entrance exam for rock guitar. Its reach later served a humanitarian purpose. In 1989, musicians connected to Queen, Pink Floyd, Black Sabbath, Rush, and Deep Purple joined the Rock Aid Armenia project to record a charity version after the devastating Armenian earthquake. The new single reached the British top 40. A riff born from one disaster had been repurposed to help victims of another. Black smoke above Lake Geneva makes that opening riff play immediately inside your head. What is the song? Number 3. This song does not rush toward you. It invites you to enter slowly, and then makes leaving almost impossible. At first, there is only acoustic guitar and the breathy sound of recorders, as if the music has arrived from an old English tale. More layers appear, one at a time. The tempo begins to rise so gradually that the listener barely notices. Drums enter, electric guitar widens the room. Finally, a soaring solo turns the entire 8-minute journey into a storm. Jimmy Page spent close to a year shaping that architecture. He wanted the recording to grow in both volume and speed, even though studio musicians were normally taught to protect a steady tempo. Robert Plant wrote much of the lyric beside a fireplace. At Headley Grange, when Page recorded the solo, he played 3 complete takes and selected the one that carried the right emotional line. Atlantic Records understood its commercial potential and wanted a single. Led Zeppelin refused. The band did not want listeners to buy only one shortened piece of Led Zeppelin 4. That decision should have limited the song's reach. Instead, radio stations played the full recording anyway. It eventually passed 10 million American radio performances, despite never receiving a commercial US single release. The album beneath it became one of the best-selling records in history. The audience response followed the song's structure. People became quiet during the opening, waited through the climb, then erupted when the drums and electric guitar arrived. It did not feel like a collection of verses. It felt like an ascent, and that made the payoff almost physical. In 2012, Ann and Nancy Wilson of Heart performed it at the Kennedy Center Honors, with Jason Bonham on drums while Led Zeppelin watched from the balcony. As the choir grew behind them, Robert Plant appeared visibly moved. The tribute introduced the song to millions who had not experienced it on 1970s radio. In 2023, the Library of Congress added the recording to the National Recording Registry for its cultural and historical importance. A gentle beginning, a slow climb, an electric storm at the summit. Have you named it yet? Number 2. It began with Don Felder inside a rented house in Malibu. A drum machine, a 12-string guitar, and a 4-track recorder. The rhythm felt so unusual that the Eagles temporarily called the demo Mexican reggae. But when Don Henley and Glenn Frey developed the story, the atmosphere changed. It became elegant, seductive, and quietly threatening.
Dad, please bring me my wine.
The central character arrives at a luxurious place on the West Coast. Entering seems easy. Leaving becomes another matter. The farther he moves inside, the more uncertain reality feels. For the band, the setting became a dark mirror of the American dream. Beauty and opportunity slowly consumed by fame, money, appetite, and excess. That ambiguity helped the song spread. Some listeners heard a supernatural story, others heard an attack on the Los Angeles music business, addiction, or the loss of innocence. Because the band never reduced it to one simple explanation, audiences kept discussing it. Mystery became part of the product.
Stab it with their stealing eyes, but they just can't.
The record company had a more practical concern. The track ran longer than 6 minutes. Its introduction took time, and it ended with an extended twin guitar passage. Executives wanted a shorter radio edit. The Eagles refused. The full version reached number 1 in America anyway, and won the Grammy for Record of the Year. The album became even larger than the single. It sold millions in its first year. By 2026, had reached 28 times platinum certification in the United States, placing it among the 3 most highly certified albums in American history. The closing exchange between Felder and Joe Walsh became one of rock's most recognizable guitar conversations. Then, after the Eagles had spent 14 years apart, the song helped frame their 1994 reunion. The band opened it with a new acoustic arrangement for the Hell Freezes Over television concert and album. The transformation proved that the writing did not depend on one production style. Even stripped of its original electric surface, the mystery remained. If you can see a glowing hotel sign somewhere in the California night, and sense that checking out may be easier than truly leaving, which song are you thinking of? Number 1. The final song should never have become a hit. It runs for nearly 6 minutes. It has no conventional chorus. It begins as a piano ballad, crashes into a miniature opera, turns into hard rock, and then falls back into silence. Freddie Mercury did not simply write one song. He joined 3 musical worlds that should never have fit together and made the collision sound inevitable. The recording process was as excessive as the structure. Queen worked across multiple studios. Mercury, Brian May, and Roger Taylor stacked vocal parts again and again, creating the illusion of an enormous operatic company. With only 3 voices. The middle section required nearly a week of work, and the tape was pushed close to its physical limits by repeated overdubbing. Record executives had every reason to be nervous. Radio preferred singles closer to 3 minutes, with a clear chorus and a predictable shape. This had none of those things. But British DJ Kenny Everett played the entire record 14 times over one weekend. Listeners began calling stations and asking for the strange new Queen song they could not describe. Public curiosity defeated industry caution. The single spent 9 weeks at number 1 in Britain and became the Christmas number 1 of 1975. After Freddie Mercury's death, it returned to the top of the British chart. In America, the 1992 film Wayne's World placed 5 young men inside a car, violently moving their heads through the hard rock section. The scene was funny, communal, and perfectly timed. The song returned to the Billboard chart and climbed to number 2, 16 years after its first American run. Its relationship with public spectacle had begun even earlier. At Live Aid in 1985, Queen opened its legendary Wembley set with the piano section before moving into a performance broadcast around the world. In that moment, an elaborate studio experiment became something tens of thousands of people could sing together. The next revival was even larger. Fed, the 2018 film about Freddie Mercury, borrowed the song's title and eventually earned more than $900 million worldwide. In the same year, Universal Music announced that the original recording had passed 1.6 billion global streams, making it the most streamed song from the 20th century at that time. In 2021, it received Diamond certification in the United States, representing more than 10 million sales and streaming equivalents. That may be the song's greatest trick. It is musically complicated, yet audiences never experience it as homework. They wait for their moment, the piano confession, the operatic response, the guitar explosion, the final gong, and become part of the performance. Four Faces Against a Black Background, a mock opera sung by 3 men, a car full of headbanging friends, one final strike of a gong. Which Queen song has been playing inside your head? Now post your 10 answers in the comments in order from number 10 to number 1 and tell us which clue unlocked each song for you. If you scored 8 out of 10, your rock memory is impressive. If you named all 10, be honest. Did you solve the clues, or have these songs been living inside you for most of your life? And which song was the hardest to identify? I will reveal the answers to the 10 songs in the comments in 3